Character is priceless, and the world will try to sell you everything except that. Stay with me until the end, because the final lessons will truly change your perspective on who you are and who you're becoming. Character is who you are when no one is watching. And I want you to really sit with that for a moment. Because in a world obsessed with visibility, we have forgotten the sacred power of invisibility. We live in a time where everything is documented, curated, filtered, and posted, where kindness is sometimes performed for applause and success is measured in views. But your real character is not built on a stage. It is forged in solitude. It is shaped in the quiet seconds between temptation and decision. It is defined in those invisible crossroads where no one would ever know which direction you chose. Think about that moment when you could exaggerate a story to sound more impressive and no one would fact check you. Think about the email you could ignore because it's inconvenient. Think about the small lie that would make your life easier. That is where character lives. Not in grand speeches, not in polished interviews, but in the silent negotiations you have with your own conscience. I remember standing at crossroads in my own journey, moments where the pressure to bend felt overwhelming, to fit in, to mold myself into what the industry expected, to soften parts of me that were too much or hide parts that were not enough. And every time I considered shrinking myself for approval, I felt a quiet resistance inside my chest, like my spirit was whispering, "Don't trade me for applause." That whisper, that is your character speaking. And here's the truth. Character whispers before consequences scream. At first, compromising feels small, almost harmless. You tell yourself, it's just this once. But every compromise leaves a fingerprint on your soul. It's like a tiny crack in glass, barely visible in the beginning. But over time, those cracks spread. And one day you look at yourself and don't recognize the reflection. That's why who you are when no one is watching matters more than who you are when everyone is. Because the audience eventually goes home, the cameras turn off, the lights dim, and you are left alone with yourself. And if you cannot respect the person staring back at you in the mirror, no trophy will fill that emptiness. Imagine your character as the foundation of a skyscraper. The world will admire the height, the design, the glamour of the top floors, but no one applauds the concrete buried underground. And yet, without that unseen foundation, the building collapses. Your unseen decisions are that foundation. Every time you choose honesty over convenience, discipline over distraction, compassion over ego, you are pouring concrete into your inner architecture. And trust me, storms will come. Criticism will come. Failure will come. The only thing that will hold you steady is the strength of what you built when no one was watching. And I know how tempting it is to believe that shortcuts are harmless. I know the pressure to keep up, to move faster, to win at any cost. But shortcuts cut something else too. They cut your self-trust. And once you lose trust in yourself, rebuilding it is harder than rebuilding a career. Self-trust is sacred. It is born in those private moments when you say, "I will do this." And then you actually do it. It is strengthened when you return the extra change the cashier accidentally gives you. It is reinforced when you refuse to speak ill of someone who isn't in the room to defend themselves. It grows when you admit you were wrong, even if no one would have found out. These may seem like small acts, but character is a mosaic, a masterpiece made of tiny, consistent pieces. And here's something even deeper. The universe responds to who you are, not just what you do. You can achieve success with talent. You can gain attention with charm. But sustained impact, meaningful soul-aligned impact, flows from integrity. There is a spiritual law woven into life. What you cultivate in private eventually manifests in public. If you nurture envy, comparison, and deceit in private, chaos follows you. If you nurture discipline, gratitude, and truth in private, peace follows you. It may not be immediate, it may not be flashy, but it is powerful. And if this is resonating with something deep inside you, stay with me, because the lessons ahead are even more powerful. And you'll regret missing the deeper truths that build on this one. But before we move forward, I need you to understand something essential. You cannot perform your way into a meaningful life. Performance exhausts you. Authenticity strengthens you. When you constantly act for approval, you are living on borrowed energy. But when you live in alignment with your values, even your struggles feel purposeful. Character gives suffering meaning. It turns obstacles into refinement rather than resentment. It transforms failure into instruction rather than identity. And let me tell you, the world doesn't need more impressive people. It needs more integrated people. People whose public image matches their private integrity. That alignment is magnetic. It builds trust without force. It commands respect without demand. And it creates influence that doesn't rely on fear or manipulation. Have you ever met someone whose presence feels safe? Someone who doesn't shift their personality depending on who walks into the room. That steadiness, that is character. And you can cultivate it, but it requires courage. Because sometimes doing the right thing means standing alone. Sometimes integrity isolates you before it elevates you. And that loneliness can feel heavy, but it is temporary. The strength you build in those solitary seasons becomes the confidence you carry into every room later. So the next time you are faced with a choice that no one else will see, pause. Ask yourself, if this decision was written across the sky, would I still make it? If the answer is no, you already know what your higher self is asking of you. Choose in alignment with that voice. Protect it. Nurture it. Because that voice is the compass of your character. And as we move forward into the next truths about values, discipline, responsibility, and legacy, remember this foundation. Everything else builds on this. Without character, success is fragile. With character, even setbacks become stepping stones. So don't rush past this lesson. Don't underestimate it because it sounds simple. Simplicity is often where the deepest wisdom hides. Who you are when no one is watching determines who you become when everyone is. And if you stay with me, if you allow these next lessons to unfold, you will begin to see how this single truth can transform not just your career, not just your relationships, but your entire destiny. Stay until the end, because what comes next will challenge you, stretch you, and awaken parts of you that have been waiting for permission to rise. Your values will cost you, and you must decide in advance that you are willing to pay the price. Because here is the uncomfortable truth no one tells you. When you are young and ambitious, integrity is expensive. It will cost you invitations. It will cost you applause. It will cost you opportunities that look golden on the outside, but feel heavy in your spirit. And in those moments, you will feel the tension between who you are and what you could gain. I have stood in rooms where saying yes would have made my life easier, faster, more glamorous. I have felt the subtle pressure to agree, to smile, to accept conditions that didn't sit right in my heart. And I remember the knot in my stomach, that quiet, sacred discomfort, reminding me that every decision is a transaction. The question is never whether you will pay a price. The question is what you are willing to pay with. Some people pay with their peace, some pay with their self-respect, some pay with sleepless nights and silent regret. When you choose your values, you may pay with delay, with misunderstanding, with temporary isolation. But when you betray them, you pay with yourself. And that is always too high a price. Think about a tree standing in a storm. The wind does not negotiate. It does not soften because the tree is tired. It tests the roots. If the roots are shallow, the tree falls. Your values are your roots. They are invisible, buried deep beneath the surface, but they determine whether you stand or collapse when the winds of temptation, fear, and ambition start to howl. And trust me, they will howl. There will be moments when compromising seems harmless. It's just business, someone will say. Don't be so sensitive. Everyone does it. But your soul is not everyone. Your spirit has its own compass. And every time you override that compass, for convenience, you teach yourself that your inner voice does not matter. That is how self-betrayal begins. Not with dramatic collapse, but with tiny dismissals of your own truth. I once had to walk away from something that looked like a dream opportunity because it required me to dilute a part of my identity that I hold sacred. People around me thought I was crazy. This is your moment, they said. Why would you risk it? And I remember going home that night, sitting in silence, and asking myself, if I succeed by becoming someone I am not, is that success or surrender? The answer was clear. Success that demands your authenticity is not success. It is a performance contract with your soul as collateral. And here's what I've learned. When you honor your values, even if the world doesn't immediately reward you, something inside you strengthens. There is a quiet power that comes from walking away with your head high. It's not loud. It's not flashy, but it is unshakable. You sleep differently. You breathe differently. You look at yourself differently because deep down, you know you did not abandon yourself for applause. And that self-trust becomes your greatest currency. The world may not always clap for integrity in the moment. Sometimes it misunderstands it. Sometimes it mocks it. Sometimes it punishes it. But life has a long memory. Doors that close because of your values often protect you from rooms that would have diminished you. And doors that open because of your compromise often lead to corridors you wish you had never entered. This is why you must decide now, before the pressure comes, who you are and what you stand for. Decide what is non-negotiable. Decide what line you will not cross. Because when you make those decisions in calm moments, you are stronger when the storm arrives. If this is stirring something inside you, stay with me, because the lessons ahead are even more powerful. And you'll regret missing how this foundation shapes everything that follows. But let me take you deeper. Choosing your values does not mean you will always feel brave. Courage is not the absence of fear. It is the willingness to feel fear and act in alignment anyway. There were moments when I said no with a steady voice and then went home trembling, wondering if I had sabotaged my own future. That's the part people don't see. They see the confidence, but they don't see the internal battle. They don't see the nights of questioning. And yet, every single time I chose my truth over approval, something extraordinary happened. Clarity followed. Not instantly, not magically, but steadily. It was as if life was saying, now that you have proven you will not abandon yourself, I can trust you with more. Values are not just moral decorations. They are energetic signals. They tell the world how to treat you. When you bend your boundaries for acceptance, you teach others that your limits are flexible. When you stand firm with grace and respect, you teach others how to respect you. And yes, some people will walk away. Let them. Anyone who requires you to shrink in order to stay was never aligned with your growth. Remember this: alignment attracts what compromise repels. When you choose your values, you may lose what was misaligned, but you make space for what is meant for you. It's like clearing a field of weeds so something stronger can grow. And I know the fear that whispers, what if nothing better comes? That fear is natural, but it is also short-sighted. Life operates on seasons. Sometimes you must endure the winter of standing alone so you can experience the spring of authentic opportunity. The impatience to bloom early has destroyed many gardens. Be patient with your becoming. And let me give you a practical truth. Saying no is a muscle. The more you use it, the stronger it becomes. The first time you protect your values, your voice may shake. The second time, it steadies. The third time, it resonates. Eventually, it becomes part of your identity. And identity is powerful. When you see yourself as someone who honors their truth, your decisions align naturally. You no longer debate every temptation. You simply act in accordance with who you are. That is freedom. Not the freedom to do whatever you want, but the freedom from betraying yourself. And here is something even deeper, something spiritual. Every time you choose integrity over immediate reward, you are building unseen strength. You are aligning with a higher version of yourself. You are telling the universe, I trust that what is meant for me does not require me to fracture my soul. That faith, that quiet, unwavering faith, transforms you. It shifts you from chasing validation to embodying conviction. And conviction is magnetic. People may not always understand your choices, but they will feel your strength. They will sense your boundaries. They will recognize your depth. And over time, the same world that questioned your firmness will respect your consistency. So if you are standing at a crossroads right now, if you are weighing an opportunity against your integrity, pause. Ask yourself, not what will I gain, but who will I become? Because that is the real question. The gain is temporary. The becoming is permanent. And as we move forward, as we explore the next truths about discipline, humility, responsibility, and legacy, remember this: none of those lessons matter if you do not first anchor yourself in values worth protecting. Stay until the final points, because what's coming will show you how these choices ripple through every part of your life. But for now, hold this close to your heart. Your values will cost you. Pay the price anyway. Because when you refuse to sell your soul for short-term success, you invest in a life that no storm can steal. And that kind of wealth, that is priceless. Discipline is the key force that builds the backbone of your character. And the truth about discipline is that it is rarely exciting, rarely celebrated, and almost never visible. Yet it is the single most powerful difference between a life of intention and a life of regret. We live in a world that glorifies motivation, inspiration, and sudden breakthroughs. But motivation is emotional, and emotions are unpredictable. Some mornings you will feel inspired. Most mornings you won't. And that is exactly where discipline begins, in the space between how you feel and what you choose to do anyway. Discipline is not about intensity. It is about consistency. It is the decision to show up on ordinary days, tired days, distracted days, doubtful days, and still take one step forward. I remember phases in my life when the glamour people saw on the outside was supported by routines that were anything but glamorous. Early mornings when no one was watching. Long hours of preparation for moments that would last only minutes. Repeating the same work again and again until it became second nature. There were no cameras in those moments, no applause, no validation, just me, my commitment, and the quiet promise I had made to myself that I would not betray my potential through laziness or inconsistency. And that's what discipline really is. Self-respect in action. It is the way you tell yourself, my future matters more than my current mood. Think of discipline like a bridge between the person you are today and the person you say you want to become. Dreams stand on one side, reality stands on the other, and discipline is the structure that allows you to cross. Without it, your dreams remain beautiful ideas floating in imagination. With it, they slowly, steadily take shape in the real world. And here's something most people don't understand. Discipline is not punishment. It is protection. It protects your I am from distraction. It protects your energy from chaos. It protects your mind from the regret of wasted potential. Every time you follow through on something you said you would do, you deposit trust into your relationship with yourself. And self-trust changes everything. When you trust yourself, you stop negotiating with your excuses. You stop starting and stopping. You stop depending on external pressure to move forward. You become internally driven. And that is where real power begins. But let me be honest with you. Discipline will test you. There will be mornings when your alarm feels heavier than your ambition. There will be days when scrolling feels easier than studying, when comfort feels more attractive than effort, when procrastination disguises itself as I'll start tomorrow, and tomorrow becomes next week, and next week becomes next year. That is how potential quietly disappears, not through failure, but through delay. Discipline interrupts that cycle. It teaches you to act before you feel ready. It teaches you to begin before you feel confident. It teaches you that progress is not built on perfect days, but on persistent ones. Imagine a sculptor working on a massive block of stone. The first strike of the chisel changes almost nothing. The second strike looks just as insignificant. Even the 100th strike may not show visible progress. But somewhere between the 1,000th and the 10,000th strike, the stone begins to transform. Was it the final strike that made the difference? No. It was the accumulation of every small, consistent effort. Your life works the same way. Most of your daily efforts will feel small, almost invisible. But over time, they compound into transformation. And if this is resonating with you, stay with me, because the lessons ahead are even more powerful, and you will regret missing how discipline connects to something even deeper than success. Now let's talk about the emotional side of discipline, because this is where many people struggle. Discipline is not just physical effort, it is emotional maturity. It requires you to manage boredom, frustration, and impatience. We live in a culture of instant results, but growth is slow, healing is slow, mastery is slow, and discipline is the ability to stay committed even when the results are not visible yet. It is faith expressed through action. Every day you show up without immediate reward. You are telling life, I believe in the long-term version of myself. That kind of faith builds resilience. And resilience builds confidence. Not the loud kind that seeks attention, but the quiet kind that comes from knowing you can rely on yourself, no matter what. Another truth about discipline is that it simplifies your life. When your habits are strong, your decisions become easier. You don't wake up and debate whether to work out. You just do it. You don't